Let's talk about, obviously, the guy that you two know quite well, Dillian Whyte, fighting on July 20th against Oscar Rivas. There's been a lot of fans who have come out and said that maybe it's not a pay-per-view. It's a good fight, but maybe it's not pay-per-view worthy. Dean, sort of fight the case on why you think that Dillian's fight is pay-per-view worthy.
Dillian's a pay-per-view fighter, man. We all know that already. All of his fights are pay-per-view. But then what you got to look at is the whole card as well. You know, if they're not happy with that, look at the card. It's a very stacked card. You've got Chisora and Spilka. You've got Price and Allen. You've got who else is on the card?
You've got Richard's got his fight.
You've got Richard, Chris Billion Smith. You've got so many 50-50 fights, which is unusual. You know what I mean? So, you know, when some people look at it, Dillian's a pay-per-view fighter, but then what he does is he stacks the card so you get value for money, you know? So, you know, in the beginning some would say that because Rivas is an unknown quantity, but now when you look at the card, you're going to get value for money. You know, all of these fights are 50-50 fights. They could go anywhere, you know? So the fans who are going to come to the arena and watch, they're going to enjoy themselves, and the fans that are going to be watching at home, they're going to get even more value for money, 20 quid. Bloody hell. You know what I mean? They're 50-50 fights, potential great knockouts. What more do you want?
I want to talk about Oscar Rivas then. Dillian could have taken an easier route. There seems to be something from Dillian that he wants to keep fighting and competing. There's times where you see Tyson Fury fought on the weekend against Tom Schwartz, and no disrespect to Tom Schwartz, not a lot of people are ahead of him. People from in the boxing industry know who Oscar Rivas is. He's come off a couple of good wins. Duane, first to yourself, when you see someone like Dillian who's just pushing himself, and he's so close to a world title shot, does that motivate yourself as somebody who looks up to him?
Yeah, I think nothing beats hard work, and that's what it is. It's working hard and keeping yourself fresh. Because I was saying earlier, I remember when early days where people was telling Dillian, reining him back in to not fight, like fighting like multiple times in 6 weeks. So I think, yeah, it's just his nature. Like, he's a fighter and he wants to get in there. So it's what needs to be done, really. If you want to prove that you're the best, that's what you've got to keep doing. You can't keep hand-picking, cherry-picking, and he's fighting the people that's coming up, so he's going to push them back down.
In your thoughts?
No, listen, everyone knows he's a fighter by nature and by heart, you know what I mean? He's not going to sit there and wait for a shot at a world title, you know what I mean? I think him being more active, you see a better Dillian Whyte, you know? If you sit there and wait on the sideline to be offered an opportunity, as you can see, he's been there 600 days of counting. That's how long he would have been on the sideline. So, and it's counting. Like Wilder says, till this day, we would be waiting. So what you must have is, you know, Dillian, like I said, is a fighting man, and he wants to fight and give the fans a good show. And you know what I mean? From where we've come from, he's giving back. You know, where we come from, where no one appreciated the journey and what he'd done and so on. So now we're in an opportunity to give back and continue fighting, you know, 50-50 exciting fights and giving great knockouts and giving the fans what they want. Listen, they can't ask for more than that. You know what I mean?
How frustrating is it? You know, you're his brother. You see him 600 days, you've just mentioned, and it still doesn't seem to be a sort of resolution.
Listen. The WBC say a lot of things, but then Wilder's already said what he believes is going to occur, because he said Ortiz is next, Fury's next. At the end of the day, whatever the WBC says, they say a lot of things and nothing hasn't happened. So what we need to do is just continue winning. There's other belts out there. The WBO's there. The IBF might be a possibility if Rhea's got stripped. There's so many opportunities. What Dill needs to concentrate on first is July the 20th. Get that out of the way. It's an interim world title. And then think about all the other stuff, the possibilities. We don't want to make the same mistake as AJ. Potentially, if he was. I'm not saying he was, but a lot of people saying he did. Overlook Rhea's. And you saw what happened. So I'm sure we won't be doing the same thing. Concentrate on July the 20th, and then we'll look at the landscape and consider the world is your oyster. But first, we've got to get rid of this aesthetically looking muscle-bound guy who's got great knockout power, and then we look forward to anyone else. Customers are welcome.
Let's talk about what you just spoke about there. Anthony Joshua fought in Madison Square Garden a couple of weeks ago against Andy Ruiz Jr. and the upset everyone knows about. Now, talk to me about that. Was this something you saw from AJ that was different? What happened there? In your eyes, what do you believe went wrong?
Do you know what? I don't know what went wrong in his camp, but what I would say is he only went there 3 weeks prior. I don't think that's long enough for me personally. I think he should have been there a lot longer. You see how Tyson Fury was there months before when he fought. Who did Tyson Fury fight when it was Wilder? He was there at least 2.5 months beforehand. I think AJ should have done that. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, I think, as maybe a promoter, they might have missed a trick here. I think they should have made AJ fight in America a lesser opponent way before. Because, just get accustomed to fighting abroad and being away and the time difference and all that. Maybe some would say it's not necessary and they didn't need it, but I think all these kind of things are quite important in building. Like when you fight abroad, as opposed to keep fighting at home, you're away from your family, you get to see if you really want this and how you perform with different atmosphere, different foods, your body, like loads of different stuff, how you adjust. To me, he didn't look right on the night of the fight, but listen, that's just an opinion and many people have the same opinion. But we can't take it away from Ruiz. He put up a great performance, and he was always going to be. I put out a tweet and I said, don't underestimate this guy because he's not to be slept on because he's good. He's had 100 amateur fights and 105 amateur fights actually, and lost only 5. His pedigrees, I don't know if they made an error or a judgment of the guy they was fighting, but he probably was a harder fight than Miller. But listen, he lost, and we've got to give credit to the guy. The better man won on the night. It's down to AJ for him to regroup, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Duane, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to say what if there was anything that went wrong or if it's just literally better guy on the night. But being there, again, to say any speculations where he didn't look right or whatever, you can't really say. Only AJ will know how he felt and if anything went wrong before or during. But it's just got to regroup, come back, and just show that it was just a bad night. Simple as that.
Sorry to interject here, but he's asking for your opinion. As an opinion, sorry, because I'm going to put you on the spot. Because
I know you're going to do that.
Because you tried to jump.
I see the eyes.
I see you trying to jump the question. So what it is an opinionated sport. It's an opinion.
Yeah. Go on.
For me, he didn't look as I've seen him in previous fights. So I'm saying.
No. Do you know what, Ev?
You're not in his head.
In hindsight, looking at the fight, there was a lot of things that were happening that were very clever. From Ruiz, very clever, and I do not know if that's a factor to do with AJ not performing to his best, or was Ruiz that good? Okay. He was doing some very, very clever things like punching away hooks, hitting elbows, hitting shoulders, and as I say, only to say whether it wasn't the same AJ, I don't know. But Ruiz was doing some very clever stuff. And that could be a factor because you did see his arm started to drop down later on.
No, AJ's hand was down from the first round. Sorry, I'll just interject here again. Ruiz has always been good. He's a counter puncher. He's good at jabbing. His hands are very fast. His boxing brain is good. His slip shot's good because he was slipping and throwing the hooks. And then what was happening? AJ was going back with his head in the clouds. So my man was coming with 3s and 4s. I understand you're saying potentially he could have thrown him off his game plan, but his coach was giving him good advice. Jab, double jab, right hand. Pretty simple. AJ was making the smaller man press him back. If he pressed him back with a double jab right hand, he might have started to gain a bit more respect from Ruiz.
I tell you what,
but listen,
to agree with what he's saying, because he's to agree with what he's saying.
Now you want to agree?
No. When it comes to the point, being at the camp. Going there about 10 days in Miami and then 5 days in New York. I know, not being in those climates and that, when I was training, do whatever I was doing, training hard, helping Josh and whatever, I couldn't have fought at the end of that. And that might be a factor, as he said. The way I felt, you can push through training, but how I felt,
you can do
I
how
couldn't
you
have
want.
fought.
It was always going to be difficult.
At the end of that, I think I would have needed to be there at least 6 weeks.
He's got a lot of muscle. He's a big guy.
I wouldn't have been in.
Him training. Remember, you're thinking about his body's confused. When to sleep? When are you training? When are you? It's not settled. So I think he needed a lot more time. But listen, that's just my opinion. I'm not the expert.
All right, let's talk about what happened on Saturday night. Tyson Fury fighting out in Las Vegas in his US debut, knocking Tom Schwartz out in the second round. But I just want to talk about the week leading up to the fight. There was a lot of entertainment. Tyson was singing. There was a lot of camaraderie. He was on a lot of chat shows as well. Talk to me about his sort of promotion pull, that they're sort of pushing him out in the US.
They're trying to build the brand. They're trying to build the brand, the Fury brand in America. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great strategy, great marketing. But Schwartz should never have been in the ring with Fury. He was just never at that level. You know, they picked him. He was an undefeated guy. They matched well, and that's good. Kudos to them. Kudos to Frank Warren, Bob Arum, and what they've done. ESPN, whatever. He's getting a lot of money to fight those guys. You know, smart move.
Fury seems to be like just one of the characters in that heavyweight division that when you hear him, you start laughing. You know, he says something funny. Everyone seems to be on the same page with the guy. What do you make of Tyson Fury and his sort of charisma and his personality that he brings to the heavyweight division?
Do you know what? I think it's good because we all, I don't know, we try to be a certain way when you come to the general public, and he just being himself from day one. So it's like, I remember when it was the build up to the two David A fights. Tyson Fury's been a nutter, so it's just what he does, and it works. That's his brand.
That's what he's got.
But he sells himself really well, and you know, as someone that's a manager who's coming into the management game like yourself, having a fighter like that must be great.
It is, and someone who actually lives up to what they're saying. You know, he talks and walks the walk. That's very unique in itself. You know, my bro Dillian does that. There's not a lot of fighters actually, you know, talk and walk the walk. So it's good. Tyson Fury, I think him coming back's, you know, it's been great for the sport as well. You know what I mean? Big old loudmouth, going out there doing his thing. He's making a ton of money, doing what he loves best. So, yeah.